German planners believed the German battleship Tirpitz would remain secure in Altafjord, protected by steep terrain, smokescreens, and layered anti-aircraft guns. They were wrong. On the 12th of November 1944, 29 RAF Avro Lancaster bombers reached northern Norway and attacked from high altitude. Tirpitz displaced 42,900 tons and carried 838 cm SKC, 34 guns in 4 turrets, plus 15 cm and 10.5 cm secondary batteries. Around her were 20 mm and 37 mm flak mounts, with additional shore batteries and radar warning. British intelligence estimated that earlier midget submarine attacks and repeated air raids had forced repairs, but she still threatened Arctic convoys. The unexpected factor was the weapon. Each Lancaster could carry a 12,000-pound Tallboy earthquake bomb, designed to penetrate armor and detonate below. At 0912 hours, multiple Tallboys struck near the ship's port side, rupturing plating and flooding compartments. Within minutes, Tirpitz rolled. German rescue parties counted hundreds trapped inside as the hull inverted. The opening minutes of Operation Catechism were decided by target location, bomb ballistics, and a short window of clear weather over Tromsø. This opening follows how radar cues, aircraft load limits, and German defensive procedures met in a single sortie. It also tracks the decisions of Air Vice Marshal Ralph Cochrane, the approach of No. 617 Squadron RAF under Wing Commander James, Willie, Tait, and the response of Kapitän Sir Robert Webber. The outcome would be measured in hit patterns, roll angle, and survival time, not headlines. By 1000 hours, the ship that had anchored German naval strategy in Norway lay capsized beside Hakøya, 2 miles from Tromsø. The 12th of November 1944, 0600 hours. Air Vice Marshal Ralph Cochrane launched a strike from RAF Lossiemouth in Moray, northeast Scotland. Cochrane had ordered the destruction of the German battleship Tirpitz at her anchorage near Hakøya, west of Tromsø. His force consisted of 29 Avro Lancaster bombers from No. 617 Squadron RAF and No. 9 Squadron RAF, supported by 1 de Havilland Mosquito for weather reconnaissance. On the opposing side, Kapitän Sir Robert Webber commanded Tirpitz's shipboard defenses, backed by German naval and Luftwaffe flak units around Tromsø. Their defensive setup included 10.5 cm heavy flak, 37 mm automatic cannon, and 20 mm mounts, plus smoke generators intended to obscure the ship. German early warning relied on radar and visual observers on surrounding high ground. British planners expected that high-altitude release and tight formation would reduce exposure to light flak and concentrate bomb fall. Tallboy was the key. 12,000 pounds, designed for deep penetration, and delivered from about 18,000 feet. Previous raids had shown that near misses could buckle internal structure even without direct penetration. But an overlooked factor was Tirpitz's relocation from Altafjord to Tromsø, where terrain and civilian shipping limited smoke-laying arcs and created clearer approach lanes from the southwest. Intelligence gathered from photographic reconnaissance and Norwegian reporting in late October 1944 indicated Tirpitz was moored off Hakøya, with torpedo nets and anti-aircraft barges nearby. However, this did not account for day-to-day variations in smoke discipline and the effect of broken cloud over Tromsø. The geography presented a defined aiming reference. The ship lay close to shore, with mountains east of the city and open water to the west. Weather measurements reported over the target area included intermittent cloud layers and visibility sufficient for bombsight use during brief gaps. What happened in the next 60 minutes would determine whether Arctic convoy routes faced a surface raider through the winter. At 0630 hours, the first Lancasters climbed out from Lossiemouth and turned north, carrying Tallboy bombs mounted on reinforced racks. No. 617 Squadron RAF, led by Wing Commander James, Willie, Tait, held cruising altitude and radio silence. Each Tallboy weighed 12,000 pounds. The aircraft carried reduced fuel to stay within takeoff limits. The route over the North Sea and Sweden was planned to avoid known radar belts. At 0900 hours, Tirpitz's lookouts reported aircraft noise, and Captain Sir C. Robert Webber ordered full anti-aircraft readiness. Flak crews manned 10.5 cm guns for barrage fire and 37 mm and 20 mm weapons for close-in defense. These guns could put dense fire into the last 3,000 yards, but high-altitude bombers remained difficult to track in broken cloud. By 0910 hours, smoke generators began operating, yet gaps opened when wind drift spread the screen unevenly. At 0912 hours, Tait's lead section began the bomb run from roughly 18,000 feet, using bomb sights aligned on the ship's centerline. By 0915 hours, observers counted at least 2 major detonations alongside the port side and 1 direct hit. German radio operator Oberstfreiter Hans Meyer at a shore station transmitted reports of a heavy raid and a ship listing. The message indicated rapid flooding and loss of power, which meant pumps and turret motors were failing. At 0920 hours, Luftwaffe Flak Commander Major Karl-Heinz Petersen ordered continued fire, but ammunition expenditure rose and tracking became erratic as the ship's angle increased. Weather data logged near Tromsø showed wind around 15 knots and visibility fluctuating between 3 and 6 miles, affecting smoke coverage and aiming intervals. At 0930 hours, Tirpitz rolled past 60 degrees, compartments flooded, and personnel began abandoning ship into water near 4 degrees Celsius. By 1000 hours, the tactical situation had evolved into rescue and damage control on shore. German counts recorded hundreds dead and wounded, while RAF aircraft were already outbound over Sweden. But at 1015 hours, German command signals confirmed the ship had capsized, and coastal defenses shifted to protecting remaining installations around Tromsø. At 1018 hours, Oberleutnant Sir C. Franz Huber, stationed at the Hakoya signal post, watched Tirpitz settle inverted and noted her starboard bilge keel fully exposed. His field telephone log recorded keel open and estimated the hull at 155 degrees. Shore hydrophones detected continuous air release from forward compartments. By 1022 hours, Captain Sir C. Robert Webber understood the ship was beyond salvage. Earlier damage control reports had expected a controlled grounding with a 10 to 15 degree list, not capsize. He ordered the Kriegsmarine Command at Tromsø informed and requested cutting gear, acetylene bottles, and portable pumps. At 1030 hours, Marine Artillery Abteilung 513 redirected 2 10.5 cm batteries to cease firing and provide security for rescue parties. Pioneersig personnel began torch-cutting access points on the exposed bottom plating, while medical teams counted 243 survivors pulled from the water. German records logged 971 missing within 2 hours. The decisive vulnerability was structural. Tallboy's 5.2-meter length and hardened nose allowed penetration through thin upper decks before detonating below. Tirpitz's main belt was 320 mm, yet the underwater near misses acted against 16 mm outer shell plating and frames spaced about 1 meter, causing progressive flooding. Strategically, the capsize mattered because German planners still counted Tirpitz as a fleet in being threatening JW and RA convoys. Earlier attacks, including Operation Tungsten, had scored 15 bomb hits yet left propulsion usable. On the 12th of November, the expected outcome was immobilization. The actual outcome removed a 42,900-ton unit in minutes. Evidence comes from the Kriegsmarine, Schadenbericht Tirpitz, 12.11.44, and RAF No. 5 Group Raid Analysis. The damage report states, Stromausfall nach Schweren Wassereinbrüchen, Pumpen were Kungslos, confirming loss of electrical power. RAF plotting counted 3 Tallboy detonations within roughly 30 meters, matching observed rapid roll. Marineoberstabsarzt Dr. Ernst Schilling established a casualty collection point at 1,100 hours near the Hakoya shoreline, triaging severe hypothermia cases from 4 degrees Celsius water. Kapitänleutnant Hans Meyer led diving parties that marked trapped air pockets. Cutting teams opened 12 hull apertures by 1400 hours. German shore logs recorded 82 men extracted from inside compartments, while 2 anti-aircraft barges were used as makeshift platforms. At 1,205 hours, Konteradmiral Rudolf Peters, naval commander Tromsø, ordered all remaining heavy flak ammunition conserved and reassigned 180 personnel from Tirpitz to coastal defense positions. His revised plan replaced shipboard 10.5 cm directors with land-based Würzburg-Rees control, and he directed smoke units to defend fuel dumps rather than the wreck. This required moving 6 generators and 4,000 liters of smoke oil by truck. By 1,800 hours, the final muster reported 1,204 dead, 600 wounded, and 87 uninjured survivors, figures later reconciled against the ship's 1,700 to 1,900 man complement. RAF loss records showed 0 aircraft lost on the sortie. Post-war calculations by the British Naval Staff assessed convoy risk reduction as immediate. No German capital ship remained in Norway capable of 30-knot interception. The full implications would only be understood when classified files were opened decades later. Documents recovered in 1946 revealed that Tirpitz's smoke defense failed less from shortage than from wind shear measured at 2 altitudes. The Tromsø Luftwaffe weather station log for the 12th of November recorded 15 knots at surface, but stronger flow above the fjord that pulled the screen into thin bands. In Kriegsmarine, Onlage, Rauschgerätelage Hakoya, the generator line is mapped with a 600-meter gap created by civilian mooring restrictions, leaving the southwest approach exposed. This contradicts the simplified claim that the ship was fully hidden until bombs fell. In fact, the concealment plan had a geometric weakness. Medical and muster records show the ship was already operating below an effective damage control baseline. The Schadensbericht Tirpitz 12.11.44 lists multiple pumps and switchboards out of service from earlier raids, and Dr. Ernst Schilling's triage notes report many engine room ratings reassigned as ad hoc stretcher bearers. Official post-war summaries often cite roughly 1,700 aboard, yet Tromsø Naval Command logs counted only 1,641 present at morning muster, while 180 men were detached to shore flak in early November, an 11% manpower loss. Fewer trained parties meant slower counterflooding and delayed isolation. For decades, it was believed Tirpitz died mainly because a single Tallboy penetrated and broke her back, an interpretation repeated in several early RAF narratives. However, declassified files in 1978, including RAF No. 5 group bombing plots and German damage sketches, showed clustered near misses were equally decisive, driving asymmetric flooding and electrical failure before the final capsize. In 1983, historian Patrick Bishop synthesized these materials to argue for a systems collapse model rather than a single catastrophic penetration. The evidence debate resembles the 1941 sinking of Bismarck, where analysts weighed torpedo damage against progressive loss of control. There, 3 torpedo hits preceded scuttling, while at Tromsø at least 3 Tallboy detonations landed within about 30 meters. Current consensus treats Catechism as a convergence of bomb ballistics, smoke geometry, and disabled auxiliaries, though scholars still dispute the exact sequence of magazine flooding. Key documentation remains split between the National Archives, AIR-14, ADM series, and the Bundesarchiv Militärarchiv Freiburg, RM files. Oberleutnant Zur C. Franz Huber, signal officer at the Hakoya post, was 26 and attached to the local Naval Communications Detachment supporting Tirpitz. At 10:18 on the 12th of November 1944, he faced a choice: keep relaying flak corrections, or switch the line to rescue coordination as the hull rolled past 90 degrees. In his field telephone notebook he wrote, Kiel oben, Leitung für Schneidrad frei machen, 12.11.44, then ordered the circuit cleared for cutting teams and medical traffic. The decision redirected 2 pioneer squads and helped open the first access holes by early afternoon. German shore logs later credited 82 men freed from trapped compartments. Huber survived the war as a British POW, returned to Hamburg in 1947, and worked in merchant shipping administration. His notebook and post-war interview transcript are preserved in the Bundesarchiv, Freiburg, within the Tromsø Naval Communications file set. His experience was typical of the 1,600 men who faced this dilemma, influencing later doctrine. Operationally, Catechism ended the Norway fleet in being problem in a single morning. With Tirpitz capsized by 10:15, Admiralty routing orders relaxed within 48 hours and convoy escort strength was reduced by 1 carrier group, 1 escort carrier, 2 cruisers, and 6 destroyers reassigned to home fleet training and anti-U-boat sweeps. British staff projections had assumed 10 to 15% convoy loss risk through winter. Post the 12th of November assessments cut that to about 5%, a reduction of roughly 2/3 in expected sinkings. The longer shift was bureaucratic and doctrinal. By the 18th of December 1944, Coastal Command and No. 5 Group issued revised guidance prioritizing precision-heavy penetrator strikes against hardened maritime targets, pairing meteorology with smoke pattern mapping. Without Tirpitz, German surface plans for February 1945 were cancelled. Instead, Norway's defenses became static coastal artillery. Operations planned for January 1945 convoy dispersal occurred on the 20th of November 1944. A difference of 6 weeks, freeing escorts for the Atlantic. Historian Patrick Bishop calculates that if Tirpitz had survived Catechism remaining afloat but damaged Admiralty planners would have retained the full Arctic convoy screen and delayed major escort reallocations by at least 4 to 6 weeks, pending proof she could not sortie. The consensus today is narrower but firm. The sinking significance lies in removing a capital ship threat at low RAF cost, not in altering Germany's overall collapse. Measured by strategic value per attacker, 29 Lancasters neutralized 42,900 tons more decisive efficiency than the 1941 Bismarck chase, which tied down 2 battleships and multiple cruisers for days. Wing Commander James Willie Tait returned to Scotland in 1945 and remained in the RAF until 1957, later becoming an aviation executive in Surrey. In a recorded 1984 interview he recalled, "We flew for minutes in a gap of weather, and that was the whole battle." Tait died on the 18th of February 2005 in England. Franz Huber, the Hakoya signal officer, came back to Hamburg in 1947, worked in merchant shipping administration, and told a 1972 local history group, "Redding war Danich unser Gefecht. Rescue became our fight." He died in Hamburg in 1998. At Hakoya, the Tirpitz Museum and Memorial Site, expanded and rededicated on the 12th of November 2004, fixed the wreck's outline into public memory. In 2016, the RAF formalized weather cell integration into strike planning for precision-guided attack profiles, echoing Catechism's dependence on smoke gaps and visibility. On the 12th of November 1944, 29 men achieved 3 Tallboy detonations within 30 meters, shifting the Arctic convoy campaign trajectory by 6 weeks.